All right, welcome to episode number 2. We're calling it Glatt Kosher Money because Rosh Kollel, and he obviously, just like he's Glatt Kosher, we all, here in Israel, already make Glatt Kosher. They also are extra shomer careful in the halachas of money. I just want to ask you one question today, because I know you don't have a lot of time. The question I had to ask you, based on what you told me the other day, was that you told me a statement. You said that you always separate your personal finances from your collecting for your kollel. For example, marrying off your kids, you wouldn't use money that you collected for your kollel. I personally wouldn't use
money. Doesn't mean other people don't. Doesn't mean it's not mutter. I personally never did.
Why is that? Why do you not use the money? And are there other Rosh Kollel and Rosh Yeshivas that would? Do you know? Is there a certain haskama, agreement among everybody, or there's different people that have different?
I could only tell people like this. I don't know if it's nice to tell people how much drivers take. I don't want to talk about that.
Drivers?
Or how much drivers. When you go abroad to raise money, people use professional drivers. Okay.
Who are these people? Who are the professional
These people
drivers?
are usually not necessarily the low life of the low life, but they're all kinds of people. There's some very Ehrlicha people that are drivers. There's some people that are
taxi service or
Ubers? No. These are professional drivers. Their business is to know when Gvirim are home and how to get to the Gvirim. And they're really the general price is a third. They take a third of whatever is given. Do
they have a data bank where they know all the Gvirim's
the really good ones, they do not only have a data bank, they know the license plate of the person's car, the person's telephone number.
Touch with one of these people?
They have. It's very easy to find. There's even a book.
There's even a book.
It's public knowledge because the really good ones are all booked up.
What's the best one's name?
I don't think I could say that on the internet because they don't pay taxes. Any of these people, and they make a very, very, very lucrative living. Some of them became millionaires, literally.
Some of these people.
I try not to use drivers that take a third. That's just my own personal policy because I pay people even. I have somebody in Chicago that I pay him. I used to pay him. I don't use him anymore for personal reasons because I don't like his personality for personal reasons. But he personally takes. We have to. He personally takes $4,000 cash, and he works with you for 8 days. But you have to pay him $4,000 in the beginning, and it only works 3-4 hours a day.
If you make less than
$4,000, that's your problem. And not only that, but you have to pay. You have to rent a car, and you have to drive him. He doesn't even drive. The guy lost his driver's license, so either you have to take a taxi service or rent a car. Rent a car. No, he got in an accident, and there was insurance. He didn't pay it. It's a long story. So the really good drivers, they take between $700 and $20,000 a day. They're like the best of the best. $720 to $1,000 a day. And
how about in your experience as fundraising, an average, how much would you earn during
we're
the
going
day?
to different questions. This is a different question.
I know, but okay,
so let's say so this particular driver that took $4,000 cash up front, I made $22,000 in 8 days.
You made $22,000, $18,000 profit.
So it was way, way less than a third what I paid him.
Okay, we're gonna have to get back to this in a second.
So what I'm trying to tell you is that there are certain things that are like standards. A standard driver takes a third. And Israelis that don't, let's say, have a lot of seichel is not the right word over here. They don't plan and they don't build themselves. They don't work on things. So there's all these what we would consider to be like schnorr type of people. And they go to America, raise money for weddings. They take a driver that takes them to all the shuls. They take a half or a quarter of what they take for the shuls. Then they take another driver at night. And they always pay a percentage. But if they would keep addresses and keep records, so they could go and save a lot of money. But these are people that that's the way they work. So professional, big Rosh Yeshivas like Rev Weissfish. I always used the driver that Rev Weissfish used in the very beginning.
Who's Rev Weissfish?
Kol Haran, he's a very famous person. He has Kol Haran.
That's in Israel?
Yes, it's in Israel. So he has a reshet of dozens of kollels, and he used to use the same driver that I used to use about 30 years ago. Just 1 minute.
I think that's a driver call.
No, it's my wife. Just 1 second, okay. So anyway, I have to take my daughter. She broke her leg yesterday, and she hasn't yet done an X-ray. They did anyway. I mean, she did an X-ray, but we're not sure that Anyway, the situation is like this. So there are certain standard things. A professional fundraiser, which I also have never used, they take 49%. So a person needs to know when he gives tzedakah to a person, he could be, if he's not the Rosh Yeshiva himself, the fundraiser could take up to 49%, and the driver could take another 33%. So that's the rest of what is left over. That's what goes to the institution. Now the Chafetz Chaim would tell people that that's what is accepted, and therefore there's no, you just give tzedakah as long as you know.
Chafetz Chaim next
yes,
question?
Correct. And so what is ever accepted?
Going on for hundreds of years.
That's
100
right.
years.
Well, I don't think the prices were so high back in those days.
I didn't even know about this.
So people should know. Now, on the other hand, if you give tzedakah, it's one of the hardest and most difficult things is to give tzedakah to a person that really deserves tzedakah, because there are a lot of people. In my experience, I've been all over the world. Went to Mexico once. I went to London. I never went to South Africa, but I've been to Mexico. Never went to Panama. I went to Mexico, London, Los Angeles, Chicago, Detroit, Cleveland. New York is one of my favorite places, and Lawrence is probably the area that people know me the best. Okay, I am very well known in Lawrence. I used to speak all the time in Rabbi Weinberger's shul, Shari Tefillah, and he was very nice to me, even though today he's no longer a Rav. But anyway, what I wanted to, that's the answer to your question. In other words, what is normally accepted, so it is normally accepted that people do, when they raise money for an institution, the head of the institution could very well take a portion of whatever is that for his own personal expenses.
You're saying just like a fundraiser would take 49%, so a Rosh Yeshiva, if he's doing it himself, he would take for his personal...
Well, right, because really,
it's a fee.
A Rosh Yeshiva is it's his house. It's his yeshiva. When it comes to Pesach, if there's chametz in the yeshiva, it could be he personally is over for all the chametz in his yeshiva. Wow. Because the yeshiva is a personal property of the Rosh Yeshiva. That is what was always accepted in the Olamei yeshivas.
I mean, even when someone donates a lot of money,
that's
the
right.
Yeshiva,
it personally belongs to the Rosh Yeshiva.
He has the deed on that property.
Because it's his. It used to be in many yeshivas. It still is, like Yaakov Friedman. He single-handedly is the entire yeshiva. I know Yaakov Friedman very well. He's a Lantzman. Yeah. We grew up together. I know his older brother. His middle brothers. We were mamish friendly growing up. And now today there are some yeshivas where they have what happened with the Panovich, all the machlokas in Panovich. It started with problems of kavod or problems of money. And both of those things have the Rosh Yeshiva has a schus to make his son-in-law the Rosh Yeshiva. That's Rosh Yeshiva's schus. And that has always been the derech. Rav Aaron Kotler chose Rav Dov Schwartzman as a Rosh Yeshiva. Rav Isser Zalman Meltzer chose Rav Aaron Kotler as his son-in-law. And generally speaking, if a person doesn't have his son has the first schus, and his son-in-law has the second schus. And that's always the way it's been in Klal Yisrael from Aaron HaKohen.
So you're giving a side in the Panovich Machlok.
Right. No, that's not true.
I wanted to ask you. We'll get into that. The question I wanted to just get back to is what I asked you at the beginning. Is that you said you do not, even though you said,
I'll tell you why.
some fundraisers would take.
I'll tell you why. Because I had a cheshbon all the years that maybe there would be a Yerusha and my children would be taken care of with the Yerusha. So because even though it was like a very, very small chance, but I davened Hashem, and so I personally had my own cheshbon, and even I probably wouldn't have been able to stand in such an asoyan because we had a person give us $500,000, and for me to have $500,000.
Have you been in
my wife is a ganenet. My wife is a ganenet.
My wife was also a ganenet.
And we have a very good parnasa. Adayom, I'm 63. My wife is 60. She still has a gan.
How many children do you have?
We have 9.
We're
married off 8 out of 9. Right. And my wife is still working as a ganenet.
And just
today she doesn't work on Fridays because I told her she continues the gun. She has to take Friday off.
That's so great. So just on her salary, you've been able to subsist without taking any money from the kollel?
Because my parents were. I was zeicher to have bought an apartment. My apartments were much cheaper, $80,000. We bought an apartment in Harnof.
Your parents helped with that apartment?
Yeah, my parents helped with that apartment.
So
once we owned an apartment when we got married, so then that enabled us basically with whatever we got from Kohl and whatever my wife made to live. But we didn't live, I never had a car. Until the last 3 years, I never had a car. We used to. I didn't. If you and this is
You
a big
drive a
assault.
nice car. What's the car you drive?
My children bought me the car.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
What car do you drive?
I don't know if you know the name of it.
Yeah,
but I'll tell you, there's
Nissan.
yeah. So anyway, there's a big assault. I'll tell all the Americans here. There's a big assault in living in Eretz Yisrael. If you want to live like an American, it costs 10 times more than to live like an Israeli. If you want to move to Eretz Yisrael, you have to stop eating meat except on Yom Tov. Yeah, and maybe once in a while on Shabbos. You have to stop eating, American type of, chicken and meat and 5 times a week. And if you want to live like an Israeli, and so then you can live like an Israeli. And Rav Dov Schwartzman, my Rebbe.
That's how you've lived your whole life.
That's right. And Rav Dov Schwartzman told me many years ago, 35 years ago. I remember I was with him, and somebody asked him, it says in the newspaper, all the Charedim are tachas kava oni. It means that all the frum people are below the poverty level. Oh. And he laughed. He said, "What a joke!" And it was really true. He said, "It's a what's the right word? Bad public relations." Why? Because in those days, every serious bacher, when he got married, got a dira. Mm-hmm. Every single dira. In those days, diras were $30,000, $40,000. You get a dira outside of Yerushalayim for $20,000 in Tifrach. In Yerushalayim, in Harnof, they cost $80,000. And in Ir Ganim, they were $25,000, $30,000. And in those days, every single serious Avrech, when he got married, he got all the furniture. He got all the appliances. Right, both the parents. Because in those days, it wasn't. This is back in the days when it wasn't so expensive. Okay. So, and he would laugh at things like that. Because he told me,
he had an apartment.
Right, so tell me, what kind of a Chiloni kid gets married at the age of 18 or 20 or 22 and he's already set up for life? He has a dira and he has furniture. And in those days, that's the way it was. So everything is relative. Now today, unfortunately, it's almost impossible to buy your children diras. And Yushalmis still do it. I don't know how they do it. They go to America and schnorr money. But the truth is, if a person really wants to, he can sit and learn. It's the Rambam. We learn the end of Shemitah.
I just want to summarize. I want to get back to Rambam the next time. After Winter's going to be away for Akita. Where do you live?
I live in Ramat Shlomo.
You live in Ramat Shlomo. Yeah. So he's not going to be here for another month. So we're going to have to continue episode 3 in another month. But it should be very exciting.
People can send me emails if they have questions. My email is shmuelwittel.
Don't give
my email.
You don't know.
I don't. That's
YouTube.
True.
But I want to just summarize what you said over here.
Thank you for telling me that. They really don't.
You have to know. You summarize, just what I was saying over here, is that a lot of people that fundraisers or Rosh Yeshiva who collect in America, they would take a percentage of that and they would use it for personal finances or for their home, right? Without, because you believed it was the right thing, wasn't the right thing to take. Why did you believe that again?
No, because I thought maybe there would be a Yerusha for my children, so I never took money from apartments. It's not true. For one year, I married 2 daughters in 1 year, and then I did write a few people letters saying that I never experienced such a financial drain, and a few people sent me. I don't even want to say the names. So the big Veer sent me $5,000, and then he raised another $5,000 for me. A big Veer that I never even met. He's a famous person. Never met him. But I guess he knew of me, and I wrote him a letter, and he found out it was real. He wrote me a check for sent me a check for $5,000 to my nonprofit organization, and then he called me a few times and spoke to other Gvirim and raised another $5,000.
You wrote the check to you?
No, to the nonprofit organization.
Right, your COLA, which is your nonprofit organization.
It's a general.
So generally, you try to avoid it because you feel it's not right, or you just didn't need it.
You don't need it. I believe.
Do you feel anything is wrong with that, or you don't feel anything wrong
anything that is just like in Hilchas Shchenim. That what is generally accepted, that's what is kovei the halacha. Like if you rent an apartment and the water boiler breaks, the owner of the apartment has to fix it. Mm-hmm. But if you break the kumkum or something like that, you have to pay for it. There are certain things that are accepted and that's the way. That's basically kovei hilchos shchenim. So also by tzedakah, what is generally accepted as like the normal, so that's vadai permitted.
So there's no halachas and hilchos tzedakah about these types.
No,
there
are. What's his name wrote us? Rabbi Gifter's son-in-law wrote a book in English about hilchos tzedakah. It's very, very chashuv.
So what is his opinion about this about this question? I'm asking you. Are you allowed to take as a fundraiser or a Rosh Yeshiva? Are you allowed to take
whatever is
from the money? Do we assume that the person is giving it without
can't assume
saying
anything
that?
Because Rav Scheinberg never took a penny from all his years.
But you're telling me that there are a lot of fundraisers. I know for a fact
Rav Elchanan Wasserman wouldn't use a stamp that was given to the yeshiva. Rav Scheinberg never took any personal money from the yeshiva. There are tzaddikim that built yeshivas, spent their entire life being Marbitz Torah, teaching Torah, and they never took a stamp from the yeshiva.
So obviously, it seems like they felt a little guilty taking.
Right. No, Rav Scheinberg was a tzaddik. He was really a tzaddik, and he got Social Security. I'll tell you a great story, and then I have to go. I was in Rav Scheinberg's apartment. Chaim Pinchas Scheinberg, my uncle Asa, drove him for 50 years.
I have a little relation. My brother-in-law.
Yes, everybody knows Asa, so everyone knows my uncle Asa.
Asa with
So anyway, one time I was by. This is a great story. Listen to the story. One time, this is a great story. One time I was by Rabbi Scheinberg, and somebody from the United States government came because they didn't believe that Rabbi Scheinberg was still accepting. Social Security for his wife. Because they were married for over 80 years.
That's probably a record.
And they didn't believe he was married for more than 80 years. So they came because they thought he was cheating the United States government. So I was in his apartment when the Social Security Department of America came to see if Rabbi Scheinberg's wife was still alive.
Want to say that again?
Bessie, Bessie.
He didn't take money.
No, he did. He got Social Security.
So what are you
They were married for 80 years. They didn't believe it. He was 20 years old.
And she was.
They didn't believe that he was married for 80 years.
He lived to 102. They were married for 80 years, and I was in the apartment.
And what happened?
No, they couldn't believe it. They thought he was cheating the government.
So what happened?
Bessie came out of the kitchen and said hi.
The people from America actually came?
Yes, the Social Security. They were in America. They were in Israel.
And what did Rav Scheinberg have to say to them?
Oh, Scheinberg was a tzaddik. He just said, talk to my wife. He was laughing.
And what the wife say?
She came in out of the kitchen. That's right. It was Kiddush Hashem. Tremendous Kiddush Hashem.
All right, thank you. We're looking forward to episode 3 coming up after Pesach. This is pretty good, huh?